Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're happy to be here again with you. Hello to all the different cameras and social media channels. So, today we would like to talk about the current ongoing baby formula crisis, the shortage of baby formula, because we have received a lot of questions and a lot of requests to talk about it, provide our opinion, and especially what people are concerned about is what healthy alternatives exist to regular commercial baby formula. So this is what we will be talking about today. So now, in these times of baby formula crisis, it is especially important um, to take this opportunity and communicate to the world that this is probably the time to glorify breastfeeding as the best way to ensure happy, healthy, harmonious future for many families, um, for the country, for the nation, for the whole world. Because if there is no breastfeeding, the population is getting sicker and sicker. So we'll just say it flat out and straight out and without beating around the bush. And it's just simple as that. But before we talk more about breastfeeding, we received a lot of questions about uh, commercial baby formulas and what are the dangers or what are the concerns associated with infant formulas, right? So animal-based and unnatural products, especially early in life, they tend to create a lot of health issues. So pretty much all of the diseases that take place in adulthood, they are the result of what the baby was fed, what the person was fed as a baby or as a child. So let's look at just some of the most common concerns and substances to avoid in baby formulas. So always, just like with anything else, read the labels, pay attention to the ingredients. So processed refined sugars, they can be disguised as syrup or syrup solids, corn syrup solids, glucose syrup solids, maltodextrin, sugar, and they can have many other different names. Then oils extracted using hexane, such as DHA and ARA, that are both essential fatty acids, and they're very important for children's brain and eye development. But the thing is that most of them that are included in commercial baby formulas, or at least some of them, they are extracted using hexane, and hexane is a neurotoxic petroleum-based solvent. So definitely, that's not something that should go into a baby, right? So then, the next ingredient would be carrageenan, typically added as a stabilizer to ready-to-eat formula. In the U.S., it is not allowed in Europe, by the way, because it has been linked to intestinal inflammation. Then synthetic nutrients, and the list is long and it's not non-inclusive. So there are other ones such as lutein, lycopene, nucleotides, taurine, carnitine, methionine. So a lot of those. So none of them are required to be in infant formula, but a lot of U.S. baby formula producers include them. So the danger is that they're made using chemical solvents, and actually they are also prohibited in the European Union, but are allowed in the US. And of course, palm oils and soy oils that are just very tough for babies, and they are linked to intestinal inflammation as well. And of course, GMO ingredients, GMOs that come from the animal feed, glyphosate traces, and a lot of other different things, right? So additional pasteurized animal milk has has dangers or concerns associated with it, correct? So, Dr. Nietzsche, would you like to talk about that, or anything else you would like to add about the
No, I mean,
ingredients?
you've covered the list of chemicals and how they affect and what they are actually, and the um, the harm that they cause if they're included in baby formula. And of course, this is the great concern. We really have to admit beyond our will just to chase some cheap products because we don't have time to get into the details of it, and we tend to ignore these things thinking it's okay because it's standard and it's accepted, and because
Everybody does it.
yeah, everybody does it, of course. And because if it is accepted and it's allowed because it's sold on the shelf of the store, that means it may be safe or my baby will not die because of that. And this is really uh, not very true. On one hand, it is true because immediate death may not follow because manufacturers make sure that they're not pursued for that critical damage. Even though there's been some cases that recently that put the manufacturers in under investigation, of course. However, we as consumers need to really dig deep and understand whether our choice is reflecting not in just in the short run. Oh, my baby is fed and he's sleeping nicely. That's all I need right now. I mean, of course, this is a factor, but in the future, what kind of future are we providing the baby? What kind of health the baby will inherit after a few years of being on formula, um, or whatever amount of time, even though it may be supplemental. So this is ultimately our responsibility to our children and to ourselves. And as we go back to the basis of the national health, we understand that breastfeeding, just like Irina said, is everything for the baby. It's the foundation of health. It's the foundation of the family bonds. It's the foundation of the energies within the family, of the trends within the family, the bond between the parents and their children, between the whole
Family
family
lineage, the
family lineage,
ancestors,
yes.
and the posterity.
So it's beyond just nutrients, but of course nutrients are important, and the quality of nutrients we'll talk about right now. However, the mental bond and for the health of the mentality, for the health of the mind, for the mental stability, for self confidence. This period of baby's life when it's being breastfed is very important mentally too. Even though we may think, oh, it's baby, he would not remember, but it's not about remembering yourself as a baby, but in that moment, how the brain develops and what foundation the mental aspect is provided at that time. That's what the baby is going to develop upon. And all characteristics will definitely be stemming out of this period of time when they breastfed. Another thing is for the mother to feel feminine and feel like she is the mother, she is the nurturer, that her self esteem is also to the top, where she realizes herself as a mother of family. If this is utterly important as well. And when baby feels in this place in the family, as same as when the mother feels where she belongs in the family, then of course the male part of the family, which is the father, who is the provider of the family, will definitely be also getting benefits, knowing that, and he will be perked up with these energies, with the energies of provider, with the uh, energies of the um, head of the family who needs to take care, and those will also fill him up and will provide him power and strength in order to create even better foundation for the family and move on forward. And this is the positive trend, the positive development of the family. We definitely encourage, and not just us, but everybody, anything, and anybody, where you look and you see what's the preferred way of raising the baby is breastfeeding, and that's true. And however, lately, um, humankind been falling out of this partially out of this tradition due to some things that get in the way, and that is stress in the society, stress that is being inflicted by the needs of the families to strive for better financial situation, for better position in society. Um, Females are acquiring certain qualities that are not really typical of them. They strive for equality, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if that reflects on the quality of the family health, then maybe it's too much. Maybe something is not right. Maybe the equality should be expressed in a different ways, not the way that it's ultimately damaging the health of the family and of the babies. So, and another thing is, of course, pollution all around, pollution in food and water and in the air. That pollution actually pollutes the body of parents, specifically of mothers. If mother's body is polluted, then of course that pollution will be transferred to the baby. Maybe not so much intrauterally, because we have the placenta, and placenta is the filter for pollutants, for major pollutants, of course. But once the baby is born and it begins to breastfeed, this is where other pollutants that are circulating within mother's bloodstream, within the lymphatic system, will be transferred to the baby, and the baby will start developing some conditions.
Yes, we have a question about that. So let us get back to that in a little bit.
Yes.
So now, if we could cover this question. So talking about why breastfeeding is best. So we have covered that it is just nature's design. This is how Mother Nature intended it. So breastfeeding is the mother's primary responsibility once she has a baby. So everything should recede to the background. So breastfeeding is the number one priority for a mother.
To break it down simple, the breast milk has all the nutrients appropriate to the baby in the raw organic form without any alteration. Specifically, I would like to emphasize this is the raw state. It's not processed in any way. That means that the biochemistry is very appropriate. This is very easily digestible by the baby. The baby doesn't even have to digest it much, because of the stomach and the intestines are not yet formed really well and not developed. The liver and the pancreas, they are just not functioning much yet, and would have to take some time in order to build before they begin function normally at 100%. So those nutrients within the breast milk are raw, and they are being assimilated quickly, and this is how nature intended it to be. So whereas when we talk about the formula, oh, that is like completely different thing. This formula is poisonous and is really hard to digest, not only by babies, but even by adults. Because of all those ingredients that are in the formula. Even though what the ultimate purpose of the manufacturers are to approximate or to make that chemical standard, or like the chemical composition close to the standard, or simulate the breast milk, but they're doing it just chemically, without consideration of the of the process of how they create these chemicals, because in many ways those chemicals are inorganic, and inorganic chemicals, they are just hard to digest. There is no specific enzymes, and when we talk about babies, they are not really secreting those enzymes yet, and they are digestive tract, the stomach juices are not as strong as to break those components. And even if they do get assimilate within the bloodstream, then those components and ingredients of the formula will not actually be beneficial as to build the tissue of the baby. And the baby is losing part of the health, part of their potential in order to process with their little bodies, optimally process these chemicals, inorganic chemicals, in order to build the tissue, in order to develop and put on weight. But that is really, that's done in a very complex, unnatural way for the biochemical composition of that of the baby, of the little organisms.
I would like to read the ingredients of the label of what is considered to be very good, like top of the line organic baby formula. I will not tell you which one. Skimmed milk, whey product, vegetable oils, including palm oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, probiotics, whey protein, fish oil, calcium chloride. So the list is very, very long. L-tryptophan, stabilizer, lactic acid. So lots of unpronounceables.
Well, they're chemicals that have to be present in breast milk, of course, but like we mentioned before, they're in a raw state in breast milk, unprocessed. The processed chemicals, even though they have the same names, they are completely different in their chemical composition. They're chemicals
And energetic.
and chemicals can exist in one chemical can exist in different forms. Okay, even like acids can be organic or inorganic, same acids, same elements, micro and element and trace elements can be in organic and inorganic form. The proteins can be denatured and can be active. They can be they can have the normal peptide bonds that can be digested well within our digestive tract. But when they're denatured, the same amino acid will not be processed within our digestive tract.
So I believe we are answering the question: why should we be concerned about pasteurized animal milk? Right?
And that too, of course,
Mhm.
yes. If it's all within the same framework. And are we answering that question then?
If you would like.
Okay.
At this point.
Animal milk is completely different from human milk in many ways, especially cow's milk. Cow's milk has like a bigger globulins, the proteins, and the fat molecules. When it is homogenized, they're broken down to smaller particles, but still they're very inappropriate for human consumption. They are not really the components of our needs and demands of our body. So when they get into the bloodstream, they pose the threat of being like allergens, and this is why our body would create the antibody reaction to those, especially the protein that is called casein, and casein is a protein of cow milk that cannot be fully digested because it's very complex protein, cannot be fully digested by our body. It's not only the baby's body, but the adult body cannot break down this protein. And once it gets into the bloodstream, it immediately poses danger of the allergenic reaction, which then turns into the autoimmune condition, which is called diabetes type 1. And this is what we see in babies who are fed with the cow's milk. and whey protein is like part of this. And so any animal protein is really harmful, especially to the babies. In the babies' development, they affect very negatively in the way of um, being causing the consequence of getting this autoimmune condition. So another thing is about the elements: calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, sodium. They are once they are thermally processed, they lose their ionic form, and that means that they even still they're water soluble, but they would not be uptaken for the tissue production, and thus they will just sediment within the bloodstream and be excreted from the system through the kidney, affecting the kidney very negatively, uh, polluting the kidney in the way the sandy substance would actually uh, clog the filter. So, and then get the body prone to forming of the kidney stones and such. And this is what is this is another thing which pretty dangerous, especially in the baby's body. And this is a great concern too. So inorganic harsh elements. If you were to look at some baby formulas ingredients, you will see there are a lot of phosphates, carbonates of the microelements, and those are inorganic salts. Whereas within the breast milk and the way that nature has designed, the bonds of the microelements and trace elements has to be organic and uh, and easily participate in biochemical reactions of forming the higher tissues of muscles and bones and nerve fibers, uh, whereas the inorganic salts would not do that. So the thickeners, the additives to the baby formulas, that's another thing that causes when Irina mentioned the carrageenan that affects the intestinal tract and causes the inflammation. This is the same reason why the same reason how the unnatural chemicals would affect the entire body. So when we talk about organic components in the breast milk, this is the natural way of nutrition for the baby. When we talk about formulating formulating the baby formula to be similar to breast milk by using some inorganic chemical compounds, but so that it only has the um, chemical similarity, that is not enough to just consider chemical composition, you know, because in the end it turns into just being like a chemical thing put together, uh, and in many ways will be harmful.
Mhm. Okay, so is there anything else that
Well,
you said about baby formula?
that's what I would have to say. So
Let's see if
pasteurized,
anything else comes up.
yeah, pasteurized animal products, they get the microelements again, inorganic. They get proteins denatured, and homogenization breaks down the fats, which otherwise would not have been absorbed by our intestinal tract, and that's the harmful effect of um, of the pasteurized milk. On the other hand, the raw milk is not allowed to be sold within the United States, other than if you were to go to a specific farmer and get it and source it that way. But then again,
And I believe you
animal.
need to establish the animal ownership.
Well, yes, of
Mhm.
course. And if there's, if there are people who would consider doing that, going and establishing the ownership and getting in touch with these farmers and sourcing the dairy products from them, like milk, goat milk, for example, there's still a risk of specific bacteria being present in the animal products that actually can cause severe contamination and severe infection in the babies. So that's another point of consideration for people who would think of doing that. So and this is the reason the dairy products are not allowed to be raw animal dairy is not allowed to be sold in the United States is because of the dangers of infections. Um, so the choice is ultimately yours, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next question is, and a lot of questions like that, how can I give my breast milk to my baby if I have to work? Very important question. Huge concern, just because our society is constructed in such a way that mothers have to work. A lot of mothers just have to work. They have to provide for the families, especially single moms that I have a huge amount of respect for, because it's unbelievably hard to be a single mom and have to provide for the family and raise children. So there are different things you can do, because I know that many of moms, they do want to breastfeed their children. They just cannot figure out a way to do it. So you can invest into a breast pump and pump your milk. You can refrigerate it. You can freeze it. Even frozen baby milk, breast milk, is so much better for your baby because it's your milk, it's your baby. So it is your body produces it specifically for your baby individually. So your breast milk, even if it's frozen, it's still better than some kind of a baby formula, even if it's organic and top of the line. So please, see if you can figure out a way to pump. And if you are unable to be by your baby 24/7 and breastfeed on demand, bottle your breast milk so that your nanny, somebody else can give the milk to the baby. So
Yeah, and this is a good point. This actually shows, this question reveals how stressed women can get when they have to go back to work so quickly and not being able to enjoy this time with their baby where they can breastfeed the baby and bond with the baby for a significant amount of time, for the time needed to establish this strong family bond, to give the potential of self-confidence to the baby, the basics of good health for the future of the baby, which is about a year at least that mother has to bond with the baby, because mothers and babies are one and the same thing. It's like one whole thing, for at least that first.
Actually, kids are considered to be in the mother's energy field for the first 7 years of their life. So completely 100% in the mother's energy field for 7 years.
Yeah, mother and baby are inseparable. So getting in between of those I think, is a crime to a certain degree, of course. However, the society is constructed that way that there is a great stress on mothers, on women in general, where they, before they give birth, they fight for equality, and then when they give birth, they have to like stand up to that equality that they've reached, and go and compete with men in their marketplace. So, but on the other hand, this is a crime towards the babies, and this is why the generation of such babies grow up, mentally unhealthy, very unstable, and emotionally that brings about a lot of other issues with health and with
Mhm.
mental health in particular. So
We've been there. It's, all these stories, that's our personal story as well, because when our firstborn um, came to this world, I was working for the corporate America. My husband was also employed. We were not self employed at the time. And I had to go back to work when our baby was 7 weeks old. And I remember crying because um, the nanny and then somebody at daycare and then grandpa, anybody else was giving my breast milk to the baby from the bottle, and I wasn't there and I couldn't even be there. So very emotional times, and this is one of the reasons why I had such a bad postpartum depression. It took me years to finally heal, to finally get out of, and it took us many years to balance the baby because he was hyperactive. He was having tantrums, and even when he started eating healthy at a very early age, still a lot of mental challenges, mental health issues, so to speak. So it took us many years to correct the situation. So it is very profound. So another thing you can do if you're unable to breastfeed at all, if you're unable to pump your breast milk, is find a breast milk bank near you, or you can find a friend or you can find a family that you know is eating healthy, where the woman also had a baby and has a lot of surplus milk. So that would be another alternative. And then, of course, there are plant-based milks that you can do, but we will leave that question to the end.